Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna share with you some thoughts from my most recent Disney trip. We just got back. We've been back about a week almost to the day, and it was quite a ride and quite different from Disney trips of years past. So let's get into it. So I asked on Instagram if you all had any questions at all. So I'm gonna sprinkle those in too with what it is that I share about. But we haven't been to Disney since November of 2019. And that feels both like yesterday and 1.5 million years ago. It feels like a real weird time warp the last 3 years, just as it is, but it just, going back there felt like we never left, but it also felt like we hadn't been there in a really long time. Up until the moment we were going to walk out the door, I was really having second thoughts about going to Disney. We haven't vacationed really over the last 4 years. When we were walking out the door, I said to myself, I don't know if I can do this. I was so overwhelmed, and I don't exactly know what I was nervous about. I can't really pinpoint it when you have generalized anxiety about something. It was just kind of like everything, the whole idea of being down at Disney again after not being there for so long. Over the last 3 years, our priorities have changed, our preferences on things have changed, and I wasn't sure how the new me would fit into what the old me used to love. And I think I was just kind of nervous about that. We ended up driving, and I at first had booked back in February, flight, rental car. We were planning on flying down. And that was when Southwest was really having a lot of issues with staffing, getting pilots and getting crew, and they were canceling flights, and it was just a whole bunch of like drama. So my husband said, why don't we just drive instead of fly? So we canceled our flights, we canceled the rental car, and we decided to drive. The route that we took from Central Ohio down to Orlando was the 77 route down through West Virginia, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and then to 95, and then down into Orlando to get on I-4 and go, that route. It took 8 hours on the first day, 6 hours on the second day. Honestly, the drive wasn't bad. It's a relatively easy drive. My husband and I switched on and off every hour and a half or so, and we just stopped for gas, stopped to get out, walk around a little bit. It was actually a very easy trip to drive down to Disney. So it's not like it was hard. It was just kind of fatiguing, and then led also to something I'm gonna share about in a little bit, with disembarkment syndrome that I felt, but I'll get there in just a minute. When we were planning our Disney trip, like I said, I started planning it in February of 2023, and we decided to rent Disney Vacation Club points. And this was a question that I had gotten on Facebook, which was, how do you rent Disney Vacation Club points? We're not DVC owners or members. We only rent Disney Vacation Club points, but we've been doing that for all of our Disney trips outside of the extended 4-month stay that we had when we actually rented a condo down there and were Florida residents and had annual passes and all of that. That was at the end of 2019. But up until that point, since 2011, we've rented Disney Vacation Club points. This time we went through David's DVC Rentals. It's dvcrequest.com. They were fantastic. And the hotel that I wanted to get us into was the Beach Club. Beach Club would be great because we're right by Epcot. We love Epcot. That was our top choice. Boardwalk, right around the lake. We've stayed at Boardwalk 3 times now, I think. So David's got back to me and they said, Beach Club and Boardwalk are completely sold out for DVC point rental. Here are your options. So the options that they gave us was Riviera, which is on the Skyliner, which can get you over to Epcot or Hollywood Studios, which we love. We like the Skyliner enough and thought, okay, maybe that's all right. But the price point on the Riviera rooms was quite a significantly higher amount. So we were like, yeah, we're gonna not do Riviera. The other options was Old Key West and Saratoga Springs. We've stayed at both Old Key West and Saratoga. We like them enough, but we don't really go to Disney Springs very much. We typically go to Magic Kingdom and Epcot, and we were trying to stay near one of those two parks. So we decided, since we've stayed at Saratoga and Old Key West, we're not gonna do that. They're very nice resorts, nothing against them. The other option was Wilderness Lodge, and either in the Boulder Ridge area or the Copper Creek area. Now, Boulder Ridge is the original Disney Vacation Club that Wilderness Lodge had, and the rooms were really run down, really tired, Copper Creek is the newer side where with the DVC, and those rooms were a little bit newer and whatever. With Boulder Ridge, I started doing some research and I saw that the entire Boulder Ridge area was down for refurbishment. This was in February, and it said opening in spring of 2023. And I was like, what's happening here? And so they literally redid the entire DVC building for Boulder Ridge, from the hallways to the rooms. They redid the painting, they put new flooring, they have new appliances and new bedding and new this, new that. And so I knew that they were going to open in April. And so I saw an artist rendering of it and I was like, it looks like it's going to be really nice. We've loved Wilderness Lodge, never stayed there. We had only just visited the resort and really liked the grounds, loved the main lobby of Wilderness Lodge. The feel of it is just very Pacific Northwest, kind of very foresty and that kind of thing. You don't even realize you're really in Florida, other than the humidity and the love bugs and whatever. But like the actual like atmosphere of it, you feel like you're out west. I said, what do you think? You want to do this? To my husband, and he said, yeah, let's do it. So we booked Boulder Ridge, a 1-bedroom at Wilderness Lodge. And I also knew that because my nervous system was so dysregulated at the time that we were going on this trip, that I would want to have, and my husband too, would want to have a more quiet resort. Not like an all-star movies or music or whatever. We'd want to have something quiet to come back to. And I didn't realize just how quiet and wonderful Wilderness Lodge was going to be. Spoiler alert, I think it's our new favorite Disney Vacation Club hotel area. Winning out over the boardwalk. I'm so bold to say that because it was the perfect hotel for what we needed. When we got down to Disney, we pulled into the parking lot around 2 o'clock or so, and my app said that my room was assigned, but it wasn't ready yet. So just hang out, enjoy the resort, and it would text me when our room was ready. So we went into the lobby and we went up to the front desk, and just to see, if what type of room was assigned to us, and just kind of let them know that we're there, and maybe it was ready and the app just didn't tell us. So the guy at the front desk, he looked up our room and he saw the room number. He didn't tell us what it was. And he said, I'm going to check and see if there's a room available immediately. And since you're here, the Midwesterner in me, I was like, no, don't worry about it. And he's like, I'm going to check to see if there's a room available right now. So the reason that he was being so incessant on checking is, and he later told us, the room that we had been assigned was literally the second floor right above the smoking area of Boulder Ridge. And every day when we walked past that area, we smelled a lot of smoke. We kind of got a room upgrade. Where we ended up being was on the 4th floor overlooking the lake that's in the back that gets you over to Fort Wilderness, which I don't know, is that Bay Lake? I don't know, whatever's behind Wilderness Lodge. Beautiful view. Oh my gosh, the sun rises in the morning. And I shared all of this on Instagram, and I'll insert some videos here so you can see them too. It was just the perfect location. When there was the Halloween parties, we could actually see the Halloween party fireworks from our balcony. There was a little bit of roof line in the way, but it was so nice to just go outside and watch fireworks from our balcony. I didn't even know you could see fireworks from Wilderness Lodge, and generally you can't unless you're in the cast member parking lot. But when they do the perimeter fireworks and stuff for the Halloween party, and I would imagine the Christmas party too, you could see it from the backside balconies. I thought that was a fantastic thing. Another big pro that we came across kind of inadvertently, I was familiar with how the boat system worked, but I did not realize that even comparing to the monorail resorts, at the end of the day at the Magic Kingdom, the monorail line was extraordinary. They had it snaking all the way around. It was so long. And so I was looking around, I was like, man, when people are, wanting to stay on that monorail loop because it's close, when you have kids and you can just jump on, jump off, you're gonna be standing in a long line. But the boat to get to Wilderness Lodge never, ever, ever had a line at all. The most people we saw was maybe 10 people. We could all fit comfortably on the boat. It was no problem at all. Even when they sometimes shared service to Fort Wilderness as well, still plenty of spaces on the boat. It was awesome. So easy to get in and out of the Magic Kingdom. And I think the boat trip itself, once you were on the boat to getting to Wilderness Lodge, was maybe 10 minutes, if that. If you had to wait for like General Joe Potter to go by you, like it really was not long at all. Very easy boat trip. So that was another huge perk because we love going to Magic Kingdom. That's one of our favorite parks and everything. And so just getting to it always was this schlep. So this was like, it's super huge perk. So that's, I think, my favorite thing probably about Wilderness Lodge. So as far as the differences from 2019 Disney to 2023 Disney, there were a few things that we needed to navigate. The first thing was making our park reservations, which I understand are going to be changing in January, but we needed to have a reservation for the park that we were going to be going to each day. And I did that ahead of time. It wasn't a problem. It was just like an extra thing to think about. The last time we were at Disney, we were Florida resident annual pass holders. And so it was like just an extra step that we had to think of. And then the other thing was the Disney Genie Plus. We refused to pay for that. So it kind of replaced the Fast Pass system that used to be free. I didn't want to pay 20 extra bucks a day for that, so we didn't, and we didn't need it. We did a relatively good job with having low wait times with how crowded the parks actually were. They were really busy. There was a lot of conventions. There was a D23 event going on, and a lot of tour groups, and just a lot of people there. It was a little more crowded than I was even anticipating it would be. We didn't need Disney Genie Plus. We got on everything we wanted to get on with very minimal wait. And I think that has to do with the way that we tour the parks. But I mean, if you're smart about it and either you get there early, do what you want, leave, come back later, or just start your park touring later in the day like we do, we had no problem. And we utilized single rider as well for the rides that allowed single rider access. So we didn't really have to wait in many lines at all. The only thing that I used Disney Genie for was to know what the wait times were at the various rides, but also to make my reservation to ride TRON. We decided not to do Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot. I had heard that it was 50-50 hit or miss as to whether it caused people motion sickness or not. My husband doesn't really have as much motion sensitivity as I do, but when it comes to motion simulators, neither of us can really do that well. And I know that it's not a motion simulator coaster, but there is a lot of screens, and so I was just worried about it. So we decided not to do Guardians, but I did get us a reservation for TRON. I had no problem at all. What I did was that day, I got up at 7 a.m. the day we were going to go to Magic Kingdom, and I did my virtual queue, I think is what it was called. I just hit the little button for that, and it was like 7:01, I think, as it had rolled over, and we were in boarding group 70. And boarding group 70 boarded around 2:00 p.m. So if that gives you any kind of, I don't know, for your upcoming trip, so you kind of spatially know what that means. But by the time that we got to TRON, we didn't really have to wait much. We only had to stand in the queue for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe. And then my husband and I opted for the accessible seats in the back of the train. So we did wait an extra probably 10 minutes or so. I don't know if this is what started to trigger the maldisembarkment, if that's how you say it, symptom that I started feeling. But when I got off of TRON, I was a little bit wobbly. I take non-toxic motion sickness remedies. I have for a number of years now, and they work really well. They allowed me to ride TRON and to ride Expedition Everest and Mine Train and Test Track and all those things. While I was on the ride, zero symptoms of motion, anything at all. So C-bands, ginger capsules, and an essential oil blend that I put behind my ears here. Probably the midpoint of our trip, and it got progressively worse because we had an 8-hour drive followed by a 6-hour drive home, that anytime I sat still, I felt like I was still moving. And it wasn't like it was vertigo. The room wasn't spinning. My stomach wasn't upset. It didn't feel like your traditional motion sickness feelings that I'm very familiar with. It was literally like my body felt like it was in motion when I was not. And I heard about this actually when people would take a cruise and they would get their sea legs, right? And then you get back on land and they'd have a hard time getting their land legs back because they would have this syndrome or symptoms. And it happens to people sometimes when they cruise, when they're on a long train trip, on road trips, or for truck drivers who are long haul truckers. It doesn't affect everybody. It affects some people. So what I did to help with this, I rushed a homeopathic, and I'll put here what it is because it's too much marbles in my mouth to try to pronounce what it is. I rushed that home when I was in the hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was waiting for me when I got home the next day. I took 2 doses of it that day. I took 1 dose the following day, and I finally felt normal again. So I'm always going to be traveling with this homeopathic. I may take it proactively. Generally, you don't take homeopathics unless you have the symptom of it, but I think it's just going to be part of my routine to take because it was the strangest, most distracting feeling. When I was in motion, I was great. When I was actually driving or riding in the car, or I was on a ride or whatever, awesome, no problem. It was when I got off and I was just sitting still on a couch or whatever, or we were, switching, getting gas in the car or whatever. That was when I just felt wobbly. It was the weirdest thing in the world. All that to say, I did enjoy the TRON ride. It was much more intense than the people that I saw ride it made it sound like. It was fast, y'all. Oh my gosh. I knew the launch was gonna be similar to Rock and Roller Coaster, which to me is so intense and all of that. TRON doesn't go upside down or anything like that, but it was a lot more swoopy than I thought that they could put it in a show building. I didn't think the building was that big. I was thinking it was gonna be more like Space Mountain or something, but it was, I didn't want it to be any longer. People would complain how short it was, and I was like, I didn't want it to be a second longer than it was. Even riding in the back, I can't imagine what it was like actually on the motorcycle. And I talked to a friend of mine, and she said that she had to sit in a wheelchair for an hour afterward because she got so disoriented from it, and it was a lot more intense than I was expecting. Now, all that to say, I have not been on a roller coaster since November of 2019, 4 years since I rode anything like a Tower of Terror or whatever, I haven't even been on an airplane. Maybe for me, I was just a little more sensitive because I haven't done anything like that in ages. I don't know, but it was a lot more intense than I was anticipating. So we got on the TTA afterward. And that was a lot more my style, kicking my feet up there, but it was fun. If you like coasters and you like ones that are more on the thrilling side, it was no Big Thunder Mountain, okay? So this was more elevated, kind of like a mix between Expedition Everest and Rock and Roller Coaster, kind of all rolled into one. So I got a couple of questions about my overall feeling with going to Disney and if I still love it like I used to and all of that. Would we go back and those kinds of things. They are really trying to squeeze every dime out of their customers as they can. And I get it, they're a business. When has Disney not really tried to do that? They've been doing that for years. But it was noticeable with the Disney Genie Plus. It was noticeable with the certain extra magic hour perks that the DVC and the deluxe resort guests got that the moderate and the value guests did not. I did appreciate that they brought back free parking for those that are staying on Disney property. Not just DVC owners and renters anymore. Everybody gets free parking if you're staying on site, which is nice. I'm glad they have that, especially since they don't have Magical Express anymore, or free transport from the airport. Not that we needed that because we drove, but I noticed that the food prices had gone up. Again, not that we participate in that. Like, we're the cheapest pretty much Disney guests that there possibly could be. I don't buy merchandise or souvenirs or anything like that. It was hotel and tickets and call it a day for us, that we didn't do anything on top of that. And same thing when we were annual pass holders back in the day, we were the cheapest Disney guests possible. We just, it's just how we operate. It's just noticeable at all the extra little things that Disney's trying to get out of you. So the energy of the park and the energy of the cast members, they put up with a lot. And it was pretty hit or miss as to if the cast members just looked absolutely whomped and exhausted, which, you're in the Orlando heat. I get it. I understand. We encountered some really great cast members though. So that is not gone. They still have really good employees that work for them. There were some that just looked like they wanted to be anywhere else, which I get it. Would we go back? Yes. Would we go back yearly? I don't think so. I think Disney is going to turn into more of maybe like a celebratory trip for us if we're, hitting a milestone in business, or if there's something special we want to celebrate, like an anniversary or something. I feel like Disney will be reserved for that. I don't think we would be going even, any more than every 3 years, probably. Yes, we will stay DVC again, probably at Wilderness Lodge. I think we would probably fly instead of drive to cut down on some of the transportation time. We had a good time. It was overwhelming, and especially with the motion that I was feeling midway through the trip and the nervous system dysregulation that I had all the way up until we were walking out the door, even into the second day of travel. It wasn't until we got to Orlando that I relaxed. But it was, I don't know, the anticipation or the worry of, we've changed so much. Is this gonna be fun? Am I gonna enjoy this? Am I gonna be overwhelmed? I haven't been around people. All those thoughts that I had in my head that I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. And so now that we've been there and done it and all of that, we know what to expect now. And I think our next trip will be more enjoyable. This was kind of like jump in and swim and hope that you still like it and all. And I just didn't know what to expect. We had a good time. And it was overwhelming at the same time. So I don't think that there's an either or there. I think both can exist and both are fine. The new phase of our lives now, I live on 5 acres in the country at this point. The last time we went to Disney, I did not. There was a lot that was different back at the end of 2019 than it is now. So, you just adapt. Life's different, and that's okay. And we can still enjoy Disney for what it is, even looking past all of the subliminal messaging and all that. So there you go, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. That was my Disney recap 2023. If you haven't already and you'd like to, hit that button down below. Subscribe so you never miss a new video. Let me know if you are planning a Disney trip in the near future. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.